Good day to you all. A very important part of my life was when my dog, Barney the Beagle, passed away in 1994. And I remember so fondly and with great kindness the Elliots offered me a wake in the orchard on their property. And unbeknownst to me, Gordon and Irene Leversage showed up. And the beautiful memory that I have of Gordon and Irene Leversage taking their time in their busy lives to show up for me to sing at a wake for a precious little dog in the middle of an orchard touched my heart deeply, and till to this day it is a very moving memory for me, and I think back on it from time to time, and what an inspiration it is when I think of Gordon and Irene Leversage, that they were a fine example of how Christians should act towards one another. And it's a lovely memory, and it was in my heart to share that all with you this day. Thank you.
I consider it an honour to be asked to say a few words at Gordon's funeral service. The words spoken at a funeral, they're often spoken too late for the one that's gone. What would I tell him if he was here today? That's the question. I believe I would tell him again what I was privileged to be able to tell him 2 days before he departed. I was able to spend an hour and a half at his bedside. I treasure that memory, and I would thank him for being a dear, loyal friend, and I would thank him again for the 20 plus years that I was privileged to go and bring my family to attend a little church meeting on a Sunday morning in Gordon and Irene's house. I believe they had had that kind of a meeting in their house since they were 21. And this was around 1980 when we started going there. The time our daughter Tracy was born, and our kids in their growing up years were every Sunday at their meeting. And I would hope to once again get a grin on his face a time or two like he did. Maybe remind him of our mutual friend the Duke, who I believe is Randy the Duke, is possibly having a few words here in the service. Maybe we could recall one or two dog burials at our farm, beginning with Bobby Leversage years ago. I would tell him again that what he's facing today at the end, being the end of life, that this is not the end. This is only the beginning of what he has believed in all these years and invested in, and what all those little Sunday morning church meetings were about. They were about being ready for what's coming next. And I believe that Gordon was indeed ready for that, and I believe Irene was too in her turn. And I believe he has done his best to inspire me and all of us around him to try and invest in this also in our turn. And I was saying before I left, I was saying goodbye to him, and it was nice to be able to say, Gordon, I look forward to seeing you again on another shore. And he somehow managed to muster up the strength in his weakness to lift his arm and offer me a handshake. And I want to treasure that handshake, because it spoke of true, loyal friendship. And it spoke more than any words that Gordon wasn't able to voice. And I'll always treasure that.
When I think of Gordon, I think of a very fair man. Everybody in Creston loved Gordon. He was a good listener. He was interested in what you were talking about. He gave you his full attention. He was a wonderful elder. He went far and above beyond his duty as an elder. He often went out to pick up folks out in Arrow Creek and other places, and he was also so wonderful to our children. I know he picked up Wanda and Shauna more than once, and I was so glad to talk to Gordon a month or so ago when Paul was visiting him. He called, and it was good to hear his voice, and he was so clear, and I just feel like he's a person that could say that he'd fought a good fight and he'd finished his course and he gave his best to God.
My thoughts on Gordon when I was thinking about him was there was three things. Firstly, his love for serving God, and secondly, his love for his family, for Irene and Jill and Joan and Gordy, and thirdly, his love for his work. And that was one thing that Gordon, he really shone in the valley. His integrity for looking after all the businesses. Gordon was a chartered accountant, and so he touched just about every life in Creston. And one thing that everybody always looked up to Gordon for advice and for guidance. And we'll always remember Gordon for his love for everyone, including all the community.
Memories come flooding as I think of Gordon. But above all, it was his and Irene's helpfulness to me when I came newly to Canada. It brings me to the real kernel of my favorite memories. On April 28, 1978, the day of my wedding to Ruth in the northern town of Prince Rupert, I received 3 official-looking urgent telegrams addressed to me. The first said, "Congratulations on this your wedding day. Stop. We regret we neglect to say that our next client requiring the blue print stripe suit must have it no later than 5 p.m. as soon as possible. Stop. Signed, Black and Lee Formal Wear Rentals, Vancouver." The second said, "It is with sincere regret that we bring to your attention the overdue rent on your apartment. Stop. Your friend, Mrs. Hunt, has made partial payment on your behalf. Please contact us immediately on your return. Stop." The third said, "Congratulations on your choice of the most beautiful girl in British Columbia. Stop. Lovingly, Ruth." This is the amusing sense of humor that Gordon had, which helped me to appreciate him as a friend to trust through the vagaries of life following marriage.
I've known Gordon for many, many years, 40 years. I've known him since I was a boy. He has been a great mentor to me. I was thinking of what was one of the great memories. Well, he had a phrase, "Is that a fact?" And that's what Gordon lived his life, was with the facts in his business and in his spiritual life. And he always sought out the truth, and he always lived the truth. And this is one of the memory that will stick with me for the rest of my days.
Hi, I'm nephew Ron, and I'm honored to share a few words about Uncle Gordon on behalf of my mom Eileen, who's a sister to Uncle Gordon, Harold, who was a brother to Auntie Irene, and my brother and sisters Marilyn, Gary, Carol, and Kathy. Uncle Gordon loved to laugh and have fun. And what came to mind to Mom when she thought of Uncle Gordon was kindness, that he was so kind, that he was even-keeled, dependable, and fun, just full of fun. So I'm going to share a few childhood stories that show, hopefully they show who Uncle Gordon was to us. Marilyn remembers when our families would get together, quite often the kids would end up getting shooed downstairs because invariably there was a lot of racket going on. And usually Uncle Gordon was in the middle of the noise, even though it was probably Jill and Carol who were creating most of the noise. And so here we would be shooed downstairs, and Uncle Gordon, Marilyn remembers him coming down, shoulders slouched, sad dog eyes, pretending he's in trouble. And we loved being in the basement with Uncle Gordon because we had twice as much fun. The next story Marilyn remembers going to family holidays in Oliver, and the dads would go golfing a couple times a week. And they often let the kids go as caddies. Well, everyone wanted to be Uncle Gordon's caddy. Why? Because he always would buy a cold bottle of pop, and he would even carry his bags most of the way around the golf course. It really wasn't a very hard gig at all. And the next story was from Mom. And one day a manila envelope arrived in the mail from Uncle Gordon for Gary Good. In it was a picture of a dozen Doukhobors going up the stairs of a courthouse with just their boots on. Mum remembers Gary holding the picture with both his hands, peering at it, intently looking for Uncle Gordon. He asked, where in the picture, which one was Uncle Gordon? From then on, whenever our family would drive to Creston, Gary and I would spend half of the time looking out the window trying to find a Doukhobor. The last story Carol reminded me, and this has been told over the ages between our families, including the Ron Good family, and we had done a family trip with all three of our families out to Goodridge to see the homestead where the Goods were raised. And on the way back, we went to a campsite near Banff. And so when it was near dark and the ladies were making their last trip to the restroom, and they all wanted to stick together because who knows, there could be a bear in the bush. And just then, growl, they heard a growl, and the bushes were moving. And Auntie Adrian just shot like a sprinter in the Olympics, left her kids behind, and I don't know if we've ever seen her again. She's kept running. And so Carol, the way she tells the story is everyone did something different. She froze and was paralyzed and couldn't move. Meanwhile, I'm sure Uncle Gordon was rolling on the ground, and all of us guys over the years, we've really enjoyed that story. And so we've had years of love and laughter. We're so thankful for all the kindness and fun that we experienced with Uncle Gordon, and we're gonna miss it.